Hello and welcome to this video on our severe weather category, and particularly focusing on how to use this category in forecasting. I'm Andrew and I am one of the data scientists at PredictHQ. Traditionally, it's been very challenging to use severe weather events in a forecast. That might be because it was difficult to get hold of the historical data. It was very difficult to understand the geographical impact of severe weather events, or it was also very difficult to understand the time impact of a particular severe weather event. We've worked very hard on a couple of product features to make it very easy and accurate to use severe weather events in a forecast. These two features are polygons and demand impact patterns, and I'm going to talk through these two features in the next 5 minutes. There's then going to be a separate second video that will be very short, just looking at bringing these two elements together in a little bit of a walkthrough of how they play into a forecasting situation. On screen, we can see a map of Miami, and in the top visual, we can see 3 colored markers. Each of these markers for this conversation is going to represent a flood event that happened at a different point in time in Miami. The other markers are going to represent a store or perhaps a warehouse that you're interested in understanding how demand is impacted. Now, if you were to just look at this visual, it's very difficult to understand which of these locations is impacted by each of those colored markers. And so this is where polygons is really powerful. If we look on the second visual, each polygon represents the area that each event has impacted. And we can now very easily work out which of these locations of interest to us were impacted by each of those flood events. And if we just draw our attention to this location at the bottom, it might not be obvious that this location would be impacted by the yellowy orange marker from the top visual. But actually, polygons allows you to realize that that event has quite a large footprint and actually impacted that location at the bottom. So why is this important for forecasting? Well, it's very important that we accurately associate events to the right location so that we don't create noise and false positives in our data set and in our features. And so that's why this is a really important first step to being able to effectively forecast using severe weather events. The next feature that we're going to talk about is demand impact patterns. Demand impact patterns was something that we created to address the challenge that a severe weather event doesn't just create demand impact on the day of the event itself, but it will also change behavior in the days leading up to the event and the days after the event. Now, it can be very challenging for you to create these impact patterns because you may not have very many examples of hurricanes or floods or a specific severe weather event at your particular store or location. And so we were able to use our years of event and demand experience to build these generalized patterns. Now, we don't just have one generalized pattern that represents all severe weather events. Instead, we have a model that creates different demand impact patterns based on features that our research showed were important, such as the location, even the day of week, and the time of the year, and of course the different types of subcategory. And so this allows us to not only include in our feature the event day, but it allows us to include signals in our features that represent those days either side of a particular event. So how does this enable us to be more effective at forecasting? Well, what it means is that our feature that we are using in our forecast, instead of only being activated and kind of non-zero on the days where there is a particular severe weather event, it will actually be non-zero on 2 to 3 times as many days, because it will also be non-zero on days either side of those events, where we also know that behavior is impacted from severe weather events. Hopefully that gives you an idea of polygons and demand impact patterns and how they can help you to accurately use severe weather in a forecasting scenario. The next video, I will touch very briefly on how we're going to fit these two things together in a forecast.